Alright, this channel plate on this, just because mine are like this does not mean yours is going to be like this, so be very careful when you take this apart. This is for a Porsche Boxster. So we have a large black, brown 230 check ball, a large green, a large yellow. The springs have a small end. The small end goes on the check valve. The black one goes down with the spring up. Large brown, small purple, small brown, brown, yellow, and I put that in the wrong spot. Yellow, clear. You have these dampers, there's 3 of them. They come with rubber tips. Sometimes you get the whole thing, sometimes you just get the tip. If you just get the tip, just stick the tip in it. One goes there, there, and there. You got 4 really thick white ones. They go here, 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 and here. The clear one has no orifice. This yellow and this yellow are the same size. This brown and this brown is the same size. These 2 purple are the same. These 2 brown are the same. 230 check ball right here. You got a filter. Just make sure it's clean. It's reusable as long as it's not broken. You got a brown check valve, small end up on the check valve again. It goes facing up, spring down. Make sure you match your gasket up to your old gasket and your plate, and make sure that it's not blocking any holes. This separator plate happens to be number 1060 327 109, and make sure that that check valve is poking up through the plate there. You can use a couple of line-up pins if you want to on this. And let me get you the number on the channel plate. I don't remember. 1060 427 140-10. Okay. Get the other part of the valve body. Okay, upper front valve body. With this valve with the stem, it's going to face up. Get this retainer going to face this way, right here. Make sure it's not blocking that valve, that the valve does move. Stem up on the valve, spring, spring, stem down, stem up, spring, spring, stem down, and then our plate. Make sure the spring gets in the pocket of that, all those holes right there. get your torque specs on that. Probably somewhere around, I don't know, 70 inch-pounds, I would imagine. Upper rear valve body 1060 427 031. Alright, we got the spring. The long stem faces in, and the retainer sits right there. Alright, come on, get in there. Alright, make sure that it's traveling the way it's supposed to. Alright. Spring, make sure it gets around the short stem, hollow end of the accumulator in, end plug. And retainer, stem out, spring, and retainer. Alright, solenoid, there is O-ring here, so I'm going to leave this loose and change that when I get my kit. You have a little orifice here. Sometimes this fits pretty snug, sometimes it fits really loose. This one came out really easily, so you just never know what you're going to get. Just make sure that when you wash this in the solvent and you blow it off, just put your thumb over it so it's not going anywhere. And we got the wire retainer that goes right there. And then when the wire comes up in here, there's another one that goes here. Our speed sensor has two spacers, one on each side. Actually, it goes this way. And then our two bolts. Lower front valve body 1060 427 143 F5. We have stem up spring, and retainer. Stem up, spring, and retainer. Now these two valves and springs are the same. Now we're going to put these two in first. Stem up. And then the retainer. Goes right there. Stem up. And the retainer goes right there. And the cup is going to face up on both of these, and the spring has to sit in that cup. Alright, spring in, stem in, spring in, stem in, spring, make sure it's on that cup, and our accumulator, hollow end in, stem up, spring, in plug, and our retainer, this is the valve we're going to replace from Transgo, so I'm not going to tighten any of this down, and this is pretty stout, so keep a good hold on it when you take it apart. And normally this does not come out, I mean especially this housing here will not come out unless you make it come out, usually. And usually this ball and spring will not come out, and you usually end up destroying it trying to get it out of there. This one, this valve over here was stuck, and when I was trying to get it out, this popped out. So sometimes it will pop out on you. So be mindful of that thing, because finding one somewhere, you're not going to do it. you're going to have to go get it out of another valve body. Alright, make sure this is sitting on that seat. Our accumulator. Alright, and our end piece. Make sure this is sitting up inside of here. It's going to pretty much have to once you get there. But getting there, make sure it's all sitting in there properly. And it's very stout. Okay, I think I'm just gonna leave the rest of these bolts out for right now. Maybe put one more on this other end that's really stout. And we'll just leave this like it is for right now. And make sure put that down in such a way that in case that cap pops back off, it doesn't go flying somewhere. And then our manual valve. Lower valve body, rear 1060 427 135 F4. Stem up, spring, and retainer, stem up, spring, retainer, stem up, spring, end plug, and retainer. Alright, stem up on the little valve. Retainer goes right there. And cup up on the spring seat, and then make sure the spring gets on that. We have an outer spring, an inner spring, and our accumulator. We have an O-ring on our end plug. I happen to have some of these, so I'm going to go ahead and put these on. Even if we don't get to do the job, it ain't that much of a loss. We have the retainer, stem up on the little valve, retainer right there, spring seat, cup up, spring, make sure it's sitting on there properly, and our accumulator, another O-ring on our end plug, retainer again. Stem up, spring, and retainer. Stem up, spring, retainer, stem up, spring, and retainer. Stem up, spring, unplug, and retainer. Okay, I'm going to leave this bracket loose on this one. There's no O-rings on this one or this one. They are both brown and they are both the same. The next three are black and they have an O-ring and they are the same. And the last one is a brown one, no O-ring, just like the other two. And then you have a bracket that holds that on. 227 Torx bolts on each one. Okie dokie. I guess we'll be back when we get the parts for our valve body, or if we don't get to build it, we'll be back when we finish putting the unit back. Okay, get you a couple lineup pins and put this in the back side there. That'll keep that all lined up on your manual valve. The little tip right there has to fit in that slot. Alright, now get on where you need to be. Okie dokie. And we got a couple short ones that go in here. Let's see where they went. Right there. A couple of these fatter ones that got to go in here. Alright, now bolts have gotten all scattered because this thing's sat around for way too long. looks like that's where all that goes. So I guess we might as well measure these things. Okay, the short one, 1.720 goes right there. The short one that's kind of fatter, 1.920 goes right there. The rest of these are 2.487. Okay, line up bolts again. Rear valve body. Let's find out where these all go. Okay, one of these up here is a short. Nope, there ain't no short one. Okay, there's another one right here. That is an inch 920. Inch 920 there, and there. Inch 720 here, and there. 2.487, these four right here. There. This has to come off for our wiring harness here. Plug our solenoids in. comes up through here. This is our temp sensor right there. This loops into the harness there. This plugs into our shift solenoid, or EPC solenoid I should say, right there. And our bracket holds that on right there. We have two spacers, 757 thousandths, and our two bolts, inch 720, and the harness is going to plug in there. Plugged in, or screwing it into the wrong spot. Right there. Alright, and there's two O-rings on our connector here, so make sure and change those. Alright, we don't have the OK on this yet, but go ahead and do the linkage. I would recommend you don't take this out. I would just take the outer lever off, take a small pocket screwdriver, get in there, pop this out, lube it up, stick it back in. This is a pain to get out of there. The roll pins really need to come out this way, not be driven out that way. You can get them out, but you got to do a lot of damn finagling to get it out of there. So your linkage seal goes this way. Go ahead and lube all that up. Just a tad bit past flush. That's your park rod. Goes on this way. And you can't get this off until you pull this shaft out, because that linkage right there keeps you from going back. Let's see. Our inner linkage goes like this. Our selector rod. So make sure we get this going the right way, because really basically one shot's going to be it. Alright, so we need the flat facing the rear. This flat right there. This all came out really tight. And let me go polish on this shaft some more. It's wanting to tighten up again. We got a roll pin. Both of these roll pins are the same. Should have marked a shaft for the center of my holes. It would have helped. Alright, that should be good enough. That one there needs to be pretty much flush. This one was sticking up just a little bit. So then we got our park pole. Spring goes on just like that. And there's, I don't know if you can see this, it's going to be a little difficult to see. Right off down in there is a little cutout area. There'll be a picture of it on the Patreon side. The spring's got a loop around that little ledge right there. Then the pivot pin goes in with the little slot facing this way. There's going to be an E-clip that this clips into. It's right there. Okay, then the guide plate goes on. That loops into there. Pivot or locating pin there, and there's 3 40 Torx right here. I'm just going to leave this loose for the momentary because I'm going to have to take this back off when I go to put my pinion and everything back in there. So this is all just going to be loose. And we have our detent. And there's two 27 tamper-proof Torx. Make sure that's centered up in the center of your rooster comb as you tighten this down. Alright, I'm going to get this up on the table because you're not going to be able to see this outside part unless I do. So let me swap to the table and we'll continue on. Okay, you got pivot, bracket, 240 Torx that go on here. Office is up front. You got your bracket on the outside. Go ahead and start your roll pin so that it's easier. And just drive that flush. There are two bushings in here and a spring clip that just holds this pivot pin on. These bushings did not want to come out, so I'm not going to make them come out. And then there's an E-clip that goes right there. Let's pop that on. Pop your linkage on the back side there. And then with your neutral switch, you gotta line up the flat spot with the flat spot on here. There is a lineup pin. It goes right there. And this is gonna sit in there just like so. And this bracket's gonna come around here. 27 Torx on these. And then this bracket right here clips into that axle. It's going to sit that way. I'm going to leave this off for right now. Don't want it to get messed up. Plus I got to put that roll pin in. Alrighty, let me get this back over on the holder. Okay, when it comes time to see this, you're not going to be able to see it, so I'm just going to show it now. It can't go in now because the pump and everything has to be in there first. But your axle, make sure that your seal is on there. And this is going to face down. And then, see if this will stay up there. Probably not. Your 40 Torx bolts go in here. Your neutral switch is going to go on. Let's see if we can get a good shot of this. This has to line up on that. The flat has to line up on your linkage there. And let's see if we can get this to turn. Everything wanting to be a pain, not wanting to cooperate. 27 Torx bolt that goes there, and one that goes here holds that bracket, and then this bracket right here clips on right there. Okay, most of this you're probably just going to have to talk about because you're not going to be able to see it. I didn't take the bearing off here because it was not wanting to come off, and I wouldn't take the chance of ruining the bearing and then not be able to get one. So just lube your bearings up, put some grease on them, and then your race. And I'm going to have to press that back together, but on this side of the race there's a notch that has to face up just like so, and this bolt, 30 Torx bolt, has to line up right there. And see if you can see the case over there. That goes in this spot right here, and that locks that in place. On top of the race here is a tapered snap ring. Taper goes up, doesn't matter where the opening is, just keep it away from the opening here. Although I really don't think it makes it doesn't make a crap. Let's see, the nut, it's a right-handed nut. I'll get the torque specs on that. Stake that in place once you get it in, and there's 2 spots to stake that. On the seal, there's a 2-piece seal, and it goes together just like so. This side, you're going to probably want to put a little bit of grease on here to keep the spring from popping off of there so easily, and do that to both sides. And putting this seal in the proper places can be a trick. It measured 7 inches 800 thousandths from the back of the case to the top of the seal, right down in here where it sits. There is a weep hole that is right here, and this is supposed to line up on that weep hole, so that way you know if one of these seals is leaking. If it's leaking 90 weight out the hole, you know it's the bottom seal. If it's leaking transmission fluid, you know it's the top seal. Getting it in there's gonna be the trick, like I say. I made a tool a long time ago out of a race that fits in here, and it's just a piece of muffler pipe with the top welded on it. It works pretty good. You gotta be very careful. You might want to plan on buying a couple extra ones, because you may screw it up. Not uncommon for it to leak, and it's a pain in the ass to change in the car. This side, see, one side is thicker than the other, and one side is recessed, the other side is stepped. This side faces up, this side faces down. Once you get the pinion in, the park gear is going to go with the rotor, speed sensor rotor facing in, and then the springs are going to be sitting on top. Okay, on your spider gears, or in your side gears, you have a washer on each one. And on your spider gears, you have a washer on each one. And then your cross pin goes through. The ring gear is what holds it in place. Alright, spider's in with your cross shaft. This nut has some splines on the back side here, lock into there. Get your shim on the front. Sits on here. Alright, 17mm bolts on here. I think my book's going to be in tonight, so I'll get torque specs on all this stuff. On our housing, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a bevel right there. Right where that bevel ends is where we're going to need to press our seal, the top of our seal into. And you might want to go ahead and put some thin grease right in there on that spring. That'll help keep that spring from popping off of there. But you want something that melts fairly quickly. I really like the gold when they had the gold for this. You don't need a lot, you just need a little, and it'll help it out a whole lot. Go ahead and lube up the outside of your seal and then press that in there. On the back side here, on the front side, we do have a plug and a seal that comes for this. Usually, it's hard to say, but usually the ZF kits will give you the plugs. Sometimes on some of these kits you just get the seal. So just keep in mind, leave this loose because they got to fill it full of gear oil. And on our cover we have a magnet that goes on right there, and then it sits on there. 3 Torx, 27 Torx. I think they were 20, yeah, 27. Alright, so we have a shim. It is selective for the diff and race. It goes here. Come on, why ain't you starting? Okay, there we go. And then there's an O-ring that goes on the outside here. Here's our 40 Torx bolts for that. Once that's on, flange goes in the diff, 40 Torx bolt for that. Okay, do the same thing to this seal that you did to the other one. Put a little bit of grease on it. It goes down to the bottom of that bevel right there. And this is going to sit on here. Our bearing is going to press in. And then once it's in, there's a snap ring that holds that in right there in that groove. There's a lathe cut seal that goes on right here. This seal goes into the case, and as it's in there, it'll be sitting in there like that. Gonna do the same thing, put some grease on here to keep that spring on there. And here's our 40 Torx to hold that in. Alright, there's the finished product. Alright, let's see how well that comes up. So you put your seal in with the spring towards you. You have your shim and your race. Put a little bit of grease on that, help turn a little bit better, easier. Alright, then our diff goes in. Lube up your bearing. Shim in first in your race. Lube that up. Put your housing on with your fill plug over here. I guess I mentioned that the O-ring is on there. I'll get you the tightening specs. I believe there's 2 passes you need to make, if I remember. And it starts with number 1, I believe, is right here, and it goes around in a circle. .40 Torx on these. And I believe the ended up being like 17 foot-pounds on these. And then the flange goes in, and 40 Torx on that, and I believe it's 18 foot-pounds. I don't know, I'll get that for you for sure. Okay, we have this little plate that goes in here. On my front seals, I like to use 3M weather strip adhesive. Just put a little bit on the outside here. I'll press that in. Have an O-ring on the outside here. We have our outer gear. Dot faces up. Inner gear dots face up. A dowel pin and our wear plate. We'll lube all that up and we'll stick it in the other part of the housing. Okay, normally this doesn't come out, and you probably really don't want to make it come out. This is a pump flow valve. Just make sure that it's free. You get the valve and the spring, and then the retainer. And if this has popped out on you, you're going to want to make that go down flush, or just barely below flush. You can stake that in place. This is going to go back in fairly tight, so I just need to get it in there. You got an O-ring that goes on out here. The bolts that hold this to the case look like this. They each have a washer on them. And you're definitely going to want to change these every time. Okay, on your stator you have 3 sealing rings. and they're hook and loop. They just go together like so. Okie dokie. Go ahead and get this lubed up. On your pump, make sure you got your pin in there, and go ahead and lube these gears up some. Lube up our O-ring. Make sure our wear plate's on there. Dang it. Alright, that line-up pin has to go right there. Okay, this right here, it's a line up right there, and I'm going to have to more than likely go press this in. Sometimes they slide in easy, sometimes they don't, and if need be, go ahead and put your line up pin in there, help guide that down. Alright, that one went fairly easily most of the way. I think I'm going to, there we go. Your longest bolt with the washer is going to go right here. Let's see, the next longest bolt, 27 Torx, right there. And your next to longest bolts to that go on the outside. And I'm missing one. And then our shortest ones go in here. And I'll get you the torque specs for that as soon as my manual shows up. And 27 Torx bolts hold this housing onto the stator. Alright, get you a line-up band. Let's see, I don't know if this one's going to be quite big enough, but we'll give it a shot. It might do it. This is just the 4L60E or 700. Does most of the GMs. Let's just put it that way. Alright, we'll lube that up. And you have an O-ring on the outside, O-ring on the inside. Bevel plate with the fingers up. Same way with these retainers in between the fingers. Alright, start off with the cushion plate and alternate steels and clutches up. Now these steels have some hot spots on them. You could probably get away with that, but I got steels coming, so they're going to get replaced. And this one on the pressure plate, the rounded teeth are up. And then our snap ring. Alright, B clutch. We've got an O-ring. And an O-ring. Lube all that up. Okay, this one here, the same way with the keepers that go in between the fingers. This one here is kind of difficult to get it compressed enough. I use a bearing race. This one is out of something else, but the one on the 6L80 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 5 reverse drum is really close to it, so you can use one of those. And I just split it in half and then I stick it on here, and you kind of got to set it something like that in order to get it down enough, and then put the keeper in and then move to the other side. Alright, something just like that. Start off with the cushion plate, alternate steels and clutches up, rounded edge of the teeth down on the pressure plate, and then our snap ring. Perfection. Okay, you can put your washer back in for your drum. I suggest you don't take that out. The only reason I took it out is to document it. You have a black O-ring that goes here. Most of your kits are going to have a green O-ring that's going to go back here, and another black one here. Go ahead and lube all that up. Bevel plate with the fingers up, and you're going to put the half moon keys in between the fingers, just like so. You want it to end up something just like that. You don't want the fingers over like something like that. You want them in between. Something just like that. Go ahead and lube this O-ring up. Got the cushion plate. steel, alternate clutches and steels up. And I think I forgot to mention, all these clutch packs are checked with 45 psi pressure down. Rounded tooth down on the side of your tooth down on your pressure plate. So it's going to come out about perfect. Okay, these O-rings, when they get really, really hard, like they are on this one, where the piston will almost just fall out, especially the ones that are on the inside, you're going to have to get a sharp pointed scribe, either this hooked end or a straight end, and you're going to have to break the seal to get it out of there. You have an O-ring here, and an O-ring here. Lube that up really well. And I get comments all the time about using the brush. I've never had a problem using the brush. Every once in a great while I'll lose a bristle, but you just notice it and you take it off. I've been using that brush probably, I don't know, at least 20 years. Dish down on our fingers. You have an O-ring here. And go ahead and lube that up. Snap ring. If you look at the snap ring, it has a taper to the tips here. You want the short end up just like that. You don't want it down like that. And you're going to need a pair of snap ring pliers. Okay, cushion plate first. Then the steels. I'm going to have to be replacing these, but my steel module has not come in yet, so I'll be taking this back apart. Clutches. No, I don't soak my clutches. If you feel the need to soak your clutches, by all means do it. I've never seen a difference doing it and not. That's the second biggest question I get. Pressure plate. The rounded edge of the teeth go down. Snap ring is selective. That's how you set your clearance on this. That feels really good. Alright, you have an O-ring that's going to go on that bottom groove right there. You have a sealing ring. The original is going to be just like this one. The one they sent in the kit is plastic. It will work just fine. It goes together just like that. Only open this thing up just enough to get it on there. You don't want to break the back of it. You can do it and not even know that you've done it. On the sealing ring here, it sits together just like that. If need be, you can put some grease in these grooves to hold it in, but usually it's not a problem for me. This washer goes on the other drum that this goes into, and then this snap ring is going to go on the front. Short end of the taper is going to be up again. Alright. Make sure that you have your O-ring on your drum. And go ahead and lube that up. Go ahead and lube up your drum. have your snap ring, short end of the taper up. And you're going to need a pair of snap ring pliers like that. And I don't think that washer's quite down enough, so I'm probably going to have to go press that down some more. Yeah, it's not quite down. Okay, if you happen to take this apart, there is a ring that goes here, and then our shaft goes on there. There's a snap ring that holds this all. No need to take any of this apart, really. Okay, on the back here is a race. Get the grease I want, and then the bearing, and a race. The lip's going to face towards the support. Actually, you're going to want to put this on the support. I'm just going to put that there so I don't lose it. Okay, on the clutch hub we have a race, bearing, and another race. Make sure you point these the same way they were pointing before. Let's see. And we have a race with the cup. It's going to face up towards us. Bearing. And a flat race. And our hub goes on here. Have a bearing with a lip. This hub's going to go on there. The Planet already has a bearing in here. Make sure it's okay. We have a race with a lip, a bearing, and then a race goes on here, sits on there. Then we have this piece here. It's going to spline onto there and onto the support. Okay, we have an O-ring out here, green O-ring in here, lube up our drum. Go ahead and lube up both sides. I can't remember if I've already done this, talked about this piston over here or not, so we're just going to talk about it all at one time. We have an O-ring here, O-ring here. Lube that up. And then we got a piston. Go ahead and put our piston in here. Okay, we got our bell valve plate, fingers up. We got fingers of our washer. They have to fit inside of here. So make sure that they do that properly. That would work right there. We have an O-ring here, O-ring here, sealing rings here and here. And sealing rings are Z-cut. Z-butts, or I forget what they, Z-link or something like that is what they call it. So they go together just like that. Go ahead and lube up these O-rings here. Get your sprag. Don't try to take the sprag out of there. It's staked in place, and if you undo that, you're not going to get it to where it stays in there. So just leave it alone. If it's bad, you're replacing the whole thing anyway. You're not taking a sprag assembly out and changing it. So put that together like so. We have to spline our splines up into our drum. And let me put this in a hole in the table. Okay, while you're pressing this in, you're going to need something to fit on the back of that to sit this drum on, so that when you put this, press down on this, the shaft does not go back through. So then you got the bevel plate. Fingers are going to face up. These little tabs have to line up in these notches in the shaft there. And then our snap ring, short end of the taper up. Okay, start off with the cushion plate. Alternate steels and clutches all the way up. Rounded edge of our teeth down on the pressure plate, and then a snap ring. Verify that your sprag race is turning clockwise, locking counterclockwise. And on this side we have cushion plate, alternator steels and clutches up. Rounded edge of the teeth up, and then our snap ring, and then let's see how this sits in there, just like so. I have a bevel snap ring that's going to hold that into the case, and we have lugs on each side. Need to center those up. You'll see the marks where they were at before. Just put them back where they were. Down flush is fine. Okay, F clutch drum. On this, you're going to want to make sure that this sleeve is down below this ledge right here. If it's up above that, that sleeve is moved and it's no good. Got O-ring on the outside and on the inside. We ball that up. Apply plate, bevel plate with the fingers up, and our half moon keeper is going to do the same thing that we've been doing on all the others. Just like so. Start off with the cushion plate. Alternate steels and clutches all the way up. Pressure plate is the same size as the steels. And then a snap ring. And alright, we're allowed 75 to 87 on that, and that looks pretty damn close. Let's see. Alright, right on the lower limit there. Okay, for your rear planet assembly, you have a race with the cup. It's going to face up. You got your bearing and a race. It's going to sit right there. That race goes around that ledge right there. That bearing and this bearing are the same. There's a race goes around there. The bearing and the cup faces down. On the back side you got a race with the lip faces in. You got a bearing and the cup of that race faces that way. Our sun gear goes on here and our ring gear goes on here. Alright, put some grease on all these bearings, hold them all in place. Okay, we got our rear planet set up. Make sure you got your bearing with the cup up. I mean the race with the cup up, the bearing, the race with the lip up. You got your flat race, bearing, and the cup down. You got your ring gear, your race, bearing, and cup down. Your F clutch drum. Make sure you're all the way down against that race. Okay, go ahead and lube up your case. You can do this with PB Blast, WD-40, Air Crawl. You can use grease. Just you want to make sure it's a little bit slick. Lube up your support. Make sure your sealing rings are on there. Your ports are at the 6 o'clock. Make sure your lugs are in there. Don't get too radical with it. Try to go as straight as possible. Okay, that's all the way down. Okay, it doesn't show, or it doesn't say which way the snap ring has to go. When I took it out, it was pretty close to the 12 o'clock position. When they're putting it in the book, it looks like it's at the 6 o'clock position. I think we can put it down there, or we can put it up over here about the 10 and 11 o'clock position. I'm going to go ahead and put it down here at the 6 o'clock because that supports everything. I got a new pair of snap ring pliers I bought. Let's see how it works on this. I bought them for the 6R80s, but we'll see what it does for this. Works pretty good on the 6L80s. A little bit too large for this application, but it'll work. There, make sure the snap ring's all the way seated. Alright, we have our race with the lip down. We have our ring assembly. You got your flat bearing and a flat race, and a flat race on this side. You got your flat bearing and a flat race, or race with the lip facing up on this side. Sun shell. Bearing with the lip facing down. Our hub. Flat race, flat bearing, cup race with the cup facing this way. Flat race, flat bearing, flat race. Got our drum assembly. Make sure your sealing rings are on there. Sounds down. This bearing sitting this way. This drum assembly. Sounds down. Our selective race for our end play. Alright, go ahead and lube this up. Lube up the O-ring on your pump. Bearing and race sitting on there, 3 sealing rings on there. This portion facing 6 o'clock, and you're going to have to finagle this in there. Turn your drum and get your clutches to spline. Okay, I never had one that wouldn't drop down like that. This one I had to take off, put the drum on the back of the pump, and then put the A and the, what is that, E clutches. Anyway, the 2 drums that are together, I had to put them in also, put a pair of vice grips on here to hold it, keep it from falling off. Load it in that way. And once you get pretty close, you're going to have to get you a speed handle and just wiggle this around until it starts lining up, and you can draw this in by hand. And once you get it down, you should be able to turn it pretty easily. Even by hand, you should be able to turn it. Your pump washers and bolts, 27 Torx. Where'd my washer go for that one? Oh, that's my valve body bolt that I was searching for. Got mixed up in my pump bolts. What do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, let's see how we can get this to come out. Okay. Go ahead and get my shaft in there. Okay, on the tube that goes right here, there's two little O-rings. You're going to want to change those. On your tubes up here, they're all the same size. You want to lube those up and make sure that they get all the way down inside there. When they're all the way down, they're sticking up, oh, I don't know, about 125 thousandths, eighth of an inch. Okay, you want to lube these up. All three of these are the same size. These can be a little bit trickier in making sure that they're all the way down. Okay, you're going to want to get you something that'll fit inside there. It's about the same size. Make sure that they're driven all the way down. Let's air check that. See if they are down. Yes, they are down. Alright, so let's measure how deep they are. Two-inch 238. 2-inch 65, 2-inch 'kay, they each got a spring, and there's a ledge right there. I don't know if you can make it out from up there. That's where that snap ring sits. It doesn't, there's not a groove it sits in, it just sits right on top of that ledge. Make sure those springs pretty much centered. All that's doing is keeping that seal down inside there. That is 338 thousandths, 27 torques here, and this goes between the speed sensor and the case. Alright, you want to lube up your O-rings on your connector. And the slot on your manual valve has to line up on your linkage over here. The connector goes in just like that. This little tab locks into that little slot on the case right there. Alright, let me swap out my bolt. Plug in your speed sensor. You can't screw up your valve body bolts. They're all the same size except for the one that goes down here. It's the only short one. Alright, lube up the seal on your filter. Alright, our pressure port. Where is it? I believe it's over here somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, on your case, there is a pressure port, and this goes in there, so I'll find it and stick that in there. Level plug, fill and drain plug, 17 millimeter, 8 millimeter, single magnet there and there, double magnet there and there, splash cap, pan gasket, 27 Torx bolts for the pan. Alrighty. They got a complicated way. They want you to measure everything for your shims. And if you didn't change anything, nothing should have changed. I find just using an H gauge on here worked just fine. I don't see no need buying an expensive tool and going through all the complicated things that they want you to do. Just H gauge it here without the shims, H gauge it on your corresponding gear on your housing with the shim on it, measure your clearance. There you go. Okay, place your shim and your race on each corresponding position. Put your spring in. Put your gears in. Make sure your races are in there. Oh, probably ought to lube those up a little bit. And then your gasket is going to go on, and then your housing is going to go on. The 40 Torx that go on there. And here's our pressure port right over here. Right down to here. All right, that is it for this unit, and we'll catch you on the next one.